Hello, everyone. Welcome, 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 welcome. If you don't mind, we're going to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Welcome. Kathy, whenever you have a moment, roll call, please.
You got it. Sabin. Bartleson. Here. Bergbauer.
Here.
Lobes.
Here.
Galogling.
Here.
Karas.
Here.
Kostecki.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion, actually, no, sorry, all befuddled. Ernest was in the house tonight, I saw. Can you open us in prayer so I'm not so befuddled, please?
Please pray with me. Mighty Father, first we would like to say thank you. Thank you for all of your blessings. Thank you for all your protection, Father. Thank you for watching over our city. Your word says, in all thy ways acknowledge you, and you will direct our paths. So we look to the hills in which our help comes from, and our help comes from you, Father God. So we ask you to lead this meeting, Father God. Be here with us. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ernest, appreciate it. All right, any friends, liaison reports, anybody got anything going on?
This Saturday is Christmas in the Square, November 26th from 1 to 4:30 p.m. There'll be cookie decorating, letters to Santa, crafts. Oh, next Saturday, I'm sorry.
Renee's just so anxious for it.
I am anxious because my family's going to be in town.
Aye.
Anyways, it's the November 26th, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Cookie decorating, letters to Santa, crafts, balloon artists, pictures with Santa. Oh, a ice carving demonstration.
It's
Food
been with
and
the
hot
chainsaw.
cocoa and a real reindeer on the lawn. So hope everyone can make it.
I think Christmas Crossroads is this weekend, right?
Yes,
So there you
Christmas
go.
Crossroads.
That's what it is. Very fun. Thank you, Renee. What else?
Do you want to go, Mark? Go ahead. Okay. I just want to send out a reminder again to our residents to please get your pictures in for your Halloween, fall, and Thanksgiving outside decorations. We have extended our date to November 30th, so we ask for residents to be looking around. If you see your neighbors, you can actually nominate them, and that way they can get recognized. We are looking for as many people as possible. We're really thrilled about having, recognition for our neighbors. So if you know of anyone, let them know that we're looking for their pictures and submit their homes. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Joanne.
I've got one item for police liaison. This Saturday is the Lockport Police Department Trivia Night and After Party. It is being held at the Lockport American Legion, 151st and Archer. Trivia is from 6 to 8. The doors open 5 p.m. Trivia starts at 6. It is $30 a person for a team of 8 to 10. Raffles, prizes, and a DJ. And yes, there will be an after party. So again, that is Saturday, November 19th at the Lockport American Legion. And the proceeds for that evening benefit the Special Olympics Illinois Law Enforcement Torch Run. Thank you.
Very good, thanks.
Okay, I have the Lockport in Bloom. We actually got a lot of stuff done. It's our second meeting. We had a grant that was applied for by Tina Keller. Hopefully, she'll know by the end of the month what we're looking at. The locations that we've selected for having some native plantings are on the east side of City Hall, where that hill is. We thought perhaps it would look nice on that, so you can see a graduation of the higher plants in the lower. The proposed boat dock kind of women's club playground area, which I think sounds so exciting. And the health strips on State Street. And what that means, that was a new word for me. It's basically where maybe there's a light there or something like that, and they're not really kept up real well. So we picked out a few of those. We considered the Route 66 sign, which is really nice looking, but we wanted the community to maybe take a look at everything, and we thought that it would be harder to get to that sign as opposed to maybe City Hall, where they could take a look at that. And that's about it for what's been done.
Well, that's great. I'm really excited about that whole thing, so thank you, Christina. All right, anything else?
Just leaf collection will continue. The snow slowed us a little bit, but we continue to go on past Thanksgiving. And then I just wanted to offer my condolences to, which many, but probably not here at the council table, would know, but Lockport lost a legend, and Bob Asarge passed away last week. He was Lockport High School's basketball coach for many years, and we won state back in '78, so it means a lot to people, but I just want to give my condolences to the Basarge family.
Sure, thank you. Very good. Karen, you guys are like Australia over there. Anything going on? Okay, all right, thank you. All right, very good. Fun stuff. So tonight, some folks to come in for a really long overdue thank you. And it has to do with the Summer Art Series Committee. So I'm going to come down here. So, you know, this Summer Art Series Committee is a really interesting thing. It was a city initiative that, you know, we took early on as a council back in 2014. And it was a way of like, you know, we had a very dilapidated downtown. There wasn't a lot of economic, you know, vitality going on. We had burned out buildings. And, you know, we talked as a council, and it's like, what are ways that we can rebuild a downtown? You know, there's city money when we look at opportunities. There's, you know, the eccentric millionaire who comes in and does something that makes no financial sense, but they just have a passion. And we've had that before, right? The Gaylord building was redone that way. The Norton building was redone that way. Even the Lincoln Landing project with Bob Carr, right? Made no financial sense, but it's just somebody who's got a lot of money and a lot of passion. And so, you know, you seek those cats out, right? And then the other way was the bohemian art community, right? People who come in and make a city cool so that other people want to come in and be here. And, you know, so as a council, we thought, yeah, we like this idea. Let's form the Summer Arts Committee. And, you know, we we had to find somebody to run it, and there was the clear volunteer choice, and that was my wife. So Wendy, come on up here. So if anybody understands the crazy bohemian community, it's my wife. And yeah, I mean, so one of the things with Wendy that if you don't know is whenever we go anywhere, ever since we took on this role, it's, oh, look at that. How can we bring that to the city? Oh, look at that. How can we bring that to the city? There's no place we go where Wendy's not like, how can we bring that to the city? And her eyes are always on things that are interesting and creative. And I can tell you her ideas have made a really big difference. And a little bit later, she's going to give a presentation on the Summer Art Series. So I don't want to take, you know, any of the her glory away, because it's really her story to tell. But you know, she did just a magnificent job over these last 9 years. I can tell you the countless amount of hours. Now, all of our volunteers put the hours in and have brought their creative juices to this whole thing. But, you know, I don't live with you guys, so I don't know all the hours you put in. But I know all the hours. I know all the hours Wendy puts in. And it just an amazing amount of volunteer hours and her energy. So I always want to thank you for everything, Dave. And I was going to ask her to pass out certificates and hats. Thanks. Mainly because I'm a little froggy. I don't mind hugging her because she has to sleep with me, so she has no choice. But so instead of me shaking everybody's hand, yes, you might need to do it. So, yeah, first person, Kim Bell, if you can come on up. So you get the cool hat, right? Everybody throws a certificate in the garbage, right? But the hat and the pin are forever, man. Those are cool. So, thank you, Kim. Scott, Boyd from the library, come on up. see how it actually makes a difference, you know, economically and everything else. And when you guys go downtown, or when you look at, you know, the good vibe that's happening in the city, it's because of everybody right here. This is where it happens. And I just want to thank the council for being supportive of this for a long time, right? I mean, when we first started, there was some skepticism, right? Like, why are we going to put this in a budget item? But your support has made a huge difference. It's been a really important tool in the redevelopment of our city. It's creating that good vibe. So thank you, council. Thank you, staff, for all the help and work you guys do. So, bravo. Oh, okay. That's fine. All right, so I think next on our slides, we've got, we were going to talk, I think, your stuff with the Lockport and Bloom, yeah, Christina?
No, it's my meeting.
Oh, yes. All right, lay it on us.
Okay, so this Saturday, it's going to be the very first kind of discussion with the alderperson, which would be me, Christina Bergbauer. It's Saturday, November 19th at 1:30 p.m. at Crema Coffee House. And if you haven't been there, it's fantastic. What we want to do is just kind of let the public get to know what's going on. If they have any questions or concerns about anything in the 3rd Ward, or beyond that, please stop by. We'll be open for questions. Ben's going to be there, and Lance will be there, Rich and Brent. And thank you guys for giving up your Saturday. I really appreciate it.
No, I'm really glad you're doing this, Christina. That's great. And remember, anybody, if you guys want to, you know, set up time in your wards or even do them together, you know, that's all good. Christina's the lone alder person in
This
the
has come up in
3rd
the
Ward
past.
right now, so.
Yeah, a few times in the past, like, you know, interest in ward meetings.
She is the
so.
3rd Ward. That's what we call her from now on, the 3rd Ward. But the, so yeah, just feel free. Anybody else who wants to do these kind of things, whatever help you need, let us know, because it's really great that you're doing this and setting it up. All right, thank you.
This is kind of out of order, but where's the first page of this?
Oh.
Nope, that's not it. I guess that was the first page. Go ahead. I'll just explain what's going on.
Yeah.
So, with the native plantings, for me, it was a learning curve because I am into recycling and I do have a garden and I try to do best for the environment.
Hey, Christine, if you don't mind, because a lot of people don't have any idea what you're talking about, can you give them an insight of why you're even talking about native plantings and what's going on? And,
Yeah, that's what this, is. I'm getting there. It takes me a long way to get to where I want to go. But anyways, so Steve approached me and he said, let's do this native planting thing. I went to this symposium and these plants were great and all this, and I didn't understand it at all. But what I did learn was that these plants obviously are native to Illinois, and they're a hardy plant, and they can get through a lot of things that we are impossible to grow in. So it can get through stony, it can get through sandy, it's used to this. It's a hardy plant, and they take up less water. Also, there's, like in these hellscapes and stuff like that, they're a good plant to be there. It'll beautify the community. And in the short term, what we want to do is set up these plantings so the community can see them, and then maybe bring it to the neighborhoods and perhaps the parkways.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of interesting reasons to do it.
So, so that's it. It's kind of organically started with our group. It's Tina and Kathy Jepson and Joanne. And we just got another person to come on, Kathy. I don't recall her last name, but if anybody would like to join us, would super appreciate it, and help us out.
Yeah, thanks again, Christine. I'm really glad you, Joanne, and Tina are working on this. And who is the other person now? Oh, Kathy Jepson. Yeah, just exploring this idea of, these kind of plantings so that, it conserves the water table, and can they be done in a way that doesn't look shabby, right? All this kind of stuff. So thank you for exploring and looking into this. Okay. All right, so first item on the agenda tonight is CA1. What do you got, Ben?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. CA1 is a kind of a clarification memo of sorts. As we've discussed in previous budget presentations, we met with many of you 2 by 2, and the first budget presentation that Lisa made, we had some new positions in there, and I think it was a little bit mistake on my part, and just wanted to clarify how we presented this early on. It was a little confusing. We had several new positions. Some of those were new. One was an existing position that was just vacant. That vacant position was a marketing and communications role that we had, and it was an administrative support role, and we've backfilled one of those, and we'd like to backfill a second position. We've looked at other communities around us that have events and marketing positions. New Lenox, Lamont, Homer Glen all have full-time people. Many people, if they don't have them directly with their staff, they might have a department in their city like Romanville that's a park and rec department that does these kinds of things. So historically, there's always been an events role in most municipalities, certainly in Lockport. I mean, Oak Canal Days is 50-year anniversary next year. And that priority we've kind of shifted with the chamber. That's a different conversation. But this events role that we're discussing is separate. So before COVID, we had 2 positions. We lost them both for different reasons and different times, but really we had 4 roles and 2 positions. We had, before COVID, we had 1 position that was administrative support and events, and we had another position that we had added that was for marketing and communications. Currently, we have 1 superstar trying to do marketing, communications, administrative support, and events. And what we'd like to transition to is kind of get back to where we were, having 2 people handle these 4 responsibilities. As you can see on the slide here, we might mix it up a little bit where the current person we have is going to continue with administrative support and some communications, and the new position that we'd like to fill is for marketing and events. Now, some of this will always have a little lap over with each other, with one emphasis or another. It's good to have some duplication there, but no doubt that, marketing and events is important to this community. I think it's important to me. It's important to the city. We have to have an emphasis and bring these things back. There's a committee that has handled car shows, Christmas in the Square, in the past. A lot of that's been led by the Park District, who has had their own personnel issues and is kind of taking a step back. So at this point, we're trying to not only maintain what we have, but we're going to be probably asking this person to kind of take the lead in some of this. And so right now, it's really important to try to get this filled. The event efforts over the last decade have helped kind of define who Lockport is. I moved my family here. I think Lockport is a great place to live, work, and play. This budget was put together with this position in mind, and we have, the funds to support it in the events role. And, I think the events and marketing, we're making Lockport a destination for visitors and residents, and I know Lance is going to speak a little bit to the economic development part of this as it comes. But this is a time where, we're still kind of coming out of COVID, and we want to make sure that we're hitting the ground with all the pieces we need to get everything done that we envision and get back to where we've been with events. And I think this is a good time to, discuss these and let Lance talk about a little bit some of these impacts that you can see. You can see the numbers and how things can change. So, Lance, why don't you?
Sure, thanks. When I heard the discussion at the last meeting, I asked Ben if I could add a couple slides that just kind of show the impact that events, marketing, and all these different things have on us as a city, excuse me, from an economic development standpoint. And so I put a couple slides together that are really based on data. Really the first thing, just in my role, the power of marketing and events
really pre-2014 and post-2014. Kind of as Steve and others have mentioned, 2014 is kind of that crucial switch year when everything really started to kick into gear from an event standpoint, and you'll see kind of what happened at that date. But what it means for us as a city is really increased visitors, increased investment, and increased residents. So on the screen that you see now, this is all marketing that was done post-2014. Pre-2014, there was nothing. And I don't know how many people were here pre-2014 or going back to the 2000s, but we were really light on marketing. And post-2014, when the events started to kick up and a lot of the other things started to happen and the regional component of it started to gain traction, the marketing side of what everybody was doing really started to kick in. So going back to the events pre-2014 and post-2014, pre-2014 we had four main events. Post-2014, there's a list of, I think, 30 events that have occurred post-2014. And this is great in and of itself, just for community spirit, for community culture, that kind of stuff. But where it really, the rubber hits the road is when we talk about data and dollars. This is, in my role as the board member on the Heritage Corridor Convention and Visitors Bureau, we talk a lot about the impact of tourism. And I outlined in red on the right the impact specifically to Will County within Illinois' tourism economic impacts. And I will call your attention to the last two items in those columns, the state tax receipts and the local tax receipts. 33.3 million and 25.8 million. Those are pretty big dollars, and we are a component of that. We are a piece of those dollars that we bring in because of the tourism, because of the events, because of the culture that is being created. For us locally, these numbers were pretty staggering for me when I started to put them together. I wasn't sure initially where they were going to go, but as I started to pull the graphs together, it really started to tell this story. So when we talk about increased investment, this is specific to the downtown because it's all about facade grants. Pre-2014, we were averaging about $11,000 a year in facade grant disbursements. Post-2014, you can see where the graph spikes, and you all know where those were. It was the Stagecoach building, the Nick and Ivy's building, Lock and Mule building. All of those buildings started to get renovated. And as most of you know, you're never going to invest in something at $1 million scale the year after an event happens, but you might 2 or 3 years once you start to see some consistent investment in these types of activities that attract people and attract business. And this is where we've really started to see that spike occur. But throughout the community, the total number of permits that we issued, which I use as kind of a recognition for what people are reinvesting in the community, this is where we also started to see changes. To a degree, I almost discount the mid-2000s because, as we all remember, the Great Recession, it was kind of built on a shell of a shell game. With all the financial maneuvers that were happening in the mortgage market, the housing numbers that were occurring in those days were almost false to a degree. They still occurred, but it was built on a whole lot of nothing. But you can see in this graph, post-2014 and pre-2014, the increase. And if you look on the right, you can see the numbers are consistently in the thousands from 2016 all the way through this year. And as many of you have seen in the reports, we are on the cusp of really almost doubling our biggest permit revenue generation ever in Lockport's history. And that's a big part of this story. When we look at the construction value of permits, this is another part of that story. Are there things that happened, like large buildings in Prologis and ML Realty and things like that? Yes, of course there were. But if you look at the difference in the numbers, over on the right, from 2016 through last year, all but 2 years have over $100 million invested in the community. Previous to that, we had never come close to 100 million except right before the Great Recession at $87,000 in 2006. So you can see changes occurring in the community. And this is the number of residential permits. So a lot of developers use number of residential permits as a sign of growth and things like that. Again, the pre-2006, pre-Great Recession numbers, I can count those. We averaged about 67 permits a year previous to 2014, if you include those pre-recession housing permits. If you include after the crash, we averaged about 37 a year after that. Currently, from 2014 going forward, we average 69 per year through, and you can see the trend line going through in the graph as well. So, summarize, is all of that tied to events and marketing? No. Recessions, COVID, interest rates, all of those things are impactful, but certainly marketing and events that occurred post-2014 have certainly led to the increase in visitorship, the increase in investment, and the increase in population that we've experienced over those years. And really, as was said previously, all of you, both on the council now as well as on the council before, deserve a lot of credit for supporting a lot of those different activities that have built that spirit and interest from tourists that are outside the area, but also within the area that want to invest in our community, want to invest in building homes and being a resident of the community, and simply just want to invest in development in Lockport as well. So kudos to you, but when I heard a lot of the conversation, I wanted to put some data to it so that everybody could see that impact when a lot of the changes started to happen within the city. So I'll take any questions if anybody has any, but if there aren't, I'm going to turn it over to Wendy, who's going to roll through some summer art series things. Wendy, you are up.
Thank you.
The right button. I think he's got one.
Are you gonna click for me?
I can click for you.
He always thinks I'm a terrible clicker.
She does her whole presentation and never changes a slide once.
Guilty.
It's true. Who needs slides? Okay, so, I, like, a huge exhale when I see that list. I forgot more than I know. Is that what the saying goes? So, forgive me, I was told that, I always thought that when I presented at the State of the City, that was my way of giving you a report of what we were doing for the Summer Art Series. I was told this past week it wasn't enough. So I told Steve, I said, well, clearly we need to give the council, the community, more information. But I'll continue to do the State of the City reports so that you know what the Summer Art Series is up to and how we're contributing to the events and to the organization of the things that are happening in the city. So 9 years ago, when Steve took on this new position and it radically changed our lives for the good, it's been a very exciting trip. But the one thing I remember was the first time that we were sent to a conference, and we were sent off to Las Vegas, of all places. And when we got to the airport, I realized at that point, your job doesn't start when you get to the conference. Your job started as soon as you got to the airport. And that was new for me. But I remembered what my mother always told me. My mother said, beware lest you entertain angels unaware, because you never know who's going to impact you, and you never know who you're going to be impacting. And that first flight to the conference, Steve and I weren't allowed to sit together for whatever reason, and it was a long flight, And I ended up sitting next to what I will only describe as, I think, a Las Vegas mob boss. And he gave me his card, and he said, if you get in trouble, I want you to use this card. We can get you out of the police situation. I'm like, thanks. I still have the card. We didn't get into any trouble. Steve, on the other hand, though, he got to sit with an investor that is a pretty infamous Midwest investor, didn't know what he was getting into, and he immediately went into, well, you got to come to Lockport. And the investor looked at him and he said, oh, I know what Lockport is. He goes, you need to get your historic downtown straightened out. And essentially, he said, if you build it, they will come. So Steve took that mission to heart, and he said, this is what we need to do. We need to rebuild this historic downtown. Everybody else has strip malls, right? Not everybody has a gorgeous historic downtown. That's what everybody aspires to have. Frankly, we still believe that's what Bolingbrook tried to do with Promenade. It's just a fake historic downtown, right? So, that being said, we pulled together our first big event in 2014, and like Steve said, there are 3 ways that you can entice people to come out to your community and to create this economic driver. One of the ways is to have the city invest money, and at that time we couldn't. The second way was to find ourselves some eccentric millionaires, which neither of us knew any. And the third way was to invite all the bohemian art community. Those people we knew. And we had to figure out what they would come to. And at the time, steampunk was hot in 2014. A lot of people didn't know what it was, and they thought we were completely insane. But we were a historic community. It was sci-fi meets history, and girls in corsets were like, we can make this work. And it did. It was one of the grandest parties I think Lockport has ever seen, and it was a blast. But we pulled people in with that event, and the interesting group of people that showed up for that in there were the Mead brothers. And I don't know if you know who they are, but the Mead brothers are the ones who ended up rebuilding Dreams to become what it is now, the gorgeous building of Embers, and Embers named because of the fire that had happened. And the Mead brothers were like, you know, we were looking at this building, we were thinking about it, and we've been here at this party, and we're gonna put in an event space, and we're gonna go all out. We were flabbergasted. They end up getting it, fixing it, and the next thing we know, the next year, they have the steampunk party. And David, ever since then, has been begging me to do another one. I'm like, we can't do it again. Maybe something different in the future. But here it is in 2017. It was fantastic. And this was a result of this marketing party that we threw. The next focus that we had was the Roxy. And this was interesting because it was a community-driven project. And I go over all of this because I was told, too, I don't think anybody was here when we started all of this. Everybody that's here now came later, from what I know. I'm not sure. Is that 2 people, 2 originals? Okay. So I thought, I'll share it with everybody. The Roxy, the community came to us, and they desperately wanted that up and running. They wanted it back. It was an interesting situation that we were in because it was owned by a group, a private group, that was a nonprofit organization, and it was used for kind of a social gathering place for the mentally challenged and the developmentally disabled. In the past, people in the community were constantly trying to run them out. That's at least how they felt, and that's what they said. We were like, we don't want to run you out. We want to help you rebuild the facade. and people of the community were hoping that maybe we could go back to showing some movies. Well, he was so inspired by the outpouring of love from the community. They ended up getting a facade grant. We temporarily were able to fix it up. I believe Bob Morris helped us magically do something to it. And then eventually, we had the film festivals there. We were able to get movies that were happening there. And it was all these wonderful opportunities. And then the owner of the building said, you know what? I love what's happening here. I love what's happening in the community. I want to rebuild this thing. And they gutted it. And now it's the gorgeous building that you see. And if you've explored inside, it's stunning now. It will never have the original movie theater, but it's as close as you're going to get with the amount of work that they were able to do. And the following year, we were able to, well, can you skip to
This one?
the Adirondack chairs?
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things that the nonprofit does with the mentally disabled is they try to provide them with job opportunities. And one of the wonderful things that they do is they build these Adirondack chairs and then they sell them. So we thought this was our first escapade into auctions. And we bought the Adirondack chairs from them. We were able to put money back into this nonprofit, and then we were able to help with putting them out in front of businesses, and again, try to draw people into the community, and it was hugely successful. If you go back that other, it's because it's kind of out of order. Now, as you'll see, the mission of the Roxy has kind of changed too. The owner has decided no longer are they holding like parties and things like that for private events. They're completely community driven. And because of that, people get to go to these wonderful bands and improvs. And I was talking to a couple tonight, their son plays in a band and they were able to go see him, and there's dancing. And it's this wonderful, flourishing place, and nobody wanted to kick them out. We love what they are in the community, and we want to be a part of it. The third thing that we took on was Comicopolis, because I'm a literature teacher and I love books. Steve is a massive reader, and we are book people, and we love our library. And when the library said they wanted to do Comicopolis, we're like, yes, we're going to do Comicopolis. And what can we do to make this event outstanding? And every year, as we've partnered with the Comicopolis program, it's gotten bigger. So I think one of the things that's really important is this last year, and we had a 2-year gap because of COVID, and I always hate saying those words, but we went to 1,300 attendees, and there could be some we missed, there could be more, but from 47 cities in 3 states. That's a win for our community, that's a win for the library, that's a win for books. So I love it. We have our community partnership. The costs that we kind of funnel into the library is around $8,000. We help with their tent that they get so that they can expand to the outside, because we got too big for the library building, and that is an awesome problem to have. And we're more than happy to figure out how to help solve that. And the part that I get very excited about right now is we're working on a partnership that so I'll let Scott tell you about, but it's only because of the intergovernmental workings that this partnership can be successful. The last, my last one here, Unlock. This was another interesting event. The Gaylord Museum actually, it was the Historic Trust, technically, that put in for this grant. The only reason we got the grant was because of all the crazy things we did that I just showed you before this. And they were able, and that's what they wanted to see, for us to get this grant. So they gave us $50,000 for all the mayhem and creativity and the art. And we still have the residuals of the $50,000. There's a gorgeous mural in the library. If you didn't know that, you should go see it. It's fantastic. There's still the poetry under the archway, under the bridge, on the path going by the canal, going to the Lincoln Landing between the art museum. You'll remember the paper lanterns. Those were a massive hit. If we could keep them forever, we would have. They weren't sustainable. They weren't meant to be, but they were stunning. We had the chalk drawings. Those still magically appear and are inspirational to many every year. And then we, on the side of the Delwood Tire, we are given a transportation mural that to this day is still there. And that's a rough building, but it sure looks good when you come into town. And that was one of the things that I think was super successful. Fridays in the Park is directed through our lovely Donna Nevels and her team at Gallery 7 that we're so thrilled that we pilfered from Joliet, so we'll take it. They went from, I don't know, we were, a low 100s to when we got partnered up with them and started helping them, it went to a 300+ visitors once a month on the public landing. If you haven't been to one of these events, it's fabulous. The public landing has its restaurant patio area there. There are people eating, there are people drinking, there are food trucks that pull up right on the landing. It's so magical to look at it because it was nothing for so long. So many people were angry when we moved those historic houses, which by the way aren't necessarily all historic, but they were so disappointed when all of that moved and left. And I'm like, but look what it's become. It takes vision to make all these things happen. But it's another excuse to let the community know what's happening, what can you do, come on out, bring your friends. The people I work with at the high school at Romeoville, they stopped me in the hallway and they're like, I'm coming to Fridays in the Park. She lives in Naperville, a couple of the women. I said, why would you come all the way out here? She goes, because it's too packed. And she goes, this is just enough that I feel comfortable. I'm like, perfect, come out and see us. And she loves it. Spooky Night Out is another partnership that we started with the Women's Club. And I love the Women's Club, and they are amazing women that do so many good things for our community. And I know we only know them for sometimes the craft show, but there's so much more than that. And our partnership with them, our hope was to help them build this other project that they started doing at Hell's Gate. So they wanted a legacy project, and they wanted to create a historical educational park down by the canal. And again, this is a tourist opportunity, it's an educational opportunity, it's a kids getting into nature opportunity. So Steve and I went out to the America in Bloom conference in St. Louis, and one of the reasons we did that is because they had people that specialize in these kind of educational historical parks. And how do you make all that work? How do you work with your park district? What are the things that you can do? What are the grants that you can get? Who are the people that you can tap into that can help us learn about native plantings that would be part of this program to educate children about animals and the history, the boatyard that's right down there. How do we incorporate all of these things? It's such a huge undertaking, but it's worth it. So to date, Spooky Night Out has raised $23,000, almost $24,000 to go towards this project. And because it is a multi-partnership within the city, we've had opportunities to now put in for grants. So again, partnerships in the city and working with all these groups together are hugely, hugely important. Right now in the works, this project has been taking longer than it should have due to the fact that we had lots of issues with getting people that could install things. build things, electrical things, air conditioning and heating things. Any of you that have done home projects, you all know it's difficult to get all this stuff done. It is also difficult to get materials. And this was part of the problem, but thank God for Nancy and John. They jumped through a lot of hoops and they figured out how to get us our equipment. The equipment we have, we purchased with the fundraising money from the Ducks. A lot of people have asked, where does that money go? Why do you need more money? The whole goal was always to take that money and invest it back into the arts. This project is expensive. It was a $70,000 project. That's the basic cost. We had other costs that were involved in it, but the machines alone are $70,000. The good news about this project is that it will outlive all of us. It can be used for multiple things with the illumination that will project onto the side of the building. Even if we're not here, because it is tethered with the Illinois State Museum, we always have the opportunity to get content, which is massively important when you're doing these kind of projects. Everything has to outlive whatever it is that we're doing. It should not revolve around a single person.
And I just got to say, because I feel a little bad, I didn't have time to make something really cool here. So these two images that, if you're like, is that what we're going to see forever? No, they're just examples that you can project on the building. There'll be all the endless things that you can do on there. So
No.
yeah, so I just wanted to make sure nobody, so forgive me, I didn't have time to do anything.
Actually, just for your own information, we paid an artist, and he did, I hate using the word cartoon, graphic, how would you say?
There's an animation.
Animation, a 6-minute animation to educate the public in a massively fun way about the canal. It's silent, but it has some music, and it's super visual, and adults and children are going to love it. I know they're going to come out for it.
It's got a Monty Python animation look.
Yes.
Remember those throwbacks to those stop action?
It's super fun. Eric Fisher did one of our ducks, and we were able to hire him for this project. So that money from the ducks went to that artist as well. We're trying to work on, we're working right now with the Roxy in the holiday movie nights, because I feel like the Roxy keeps getting lost in these projects. We want to get them pulled in so that we can advertise more for them. The ribbon cuttings, I don't know if you've already seen them, but we've had 2 murals that went up. One is on the Uncle Richie's building, and the other is coming up the hill, going toward, going up the hill up to State Street, their Main Street. They're gorgeous, and Steve was responsible for designing those for Bentonhausen, who we raised money from them to pay for all the work, to get them printed, to get them designed, to get them put up. And then we worked with the library too, again, another partnership that I am so excited about. It's the Story Walk. And those of you that have been to places like Naperville or other cities around here, you start at one point. In our case, it's in front of the library, and you're going to take a walk all the way around City Hall, and you're going to do an interactive story with your child that will be changed out seasonally, holiday-ish. So we have a beautiful fall one that's there right now. That partnership happened with the city being able to, a library bought the equipment to put it in and bought the story and got it all worked out. The city, with its partnership, was able to provide the means to put the cement in and do the work. Our public city worker guys did all of that for us, which was amazing. The holiday painted windows, we're trying really hard. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it is on our list. We're working on an angel wing project. You've seen those. I loved them when I was in Nashville, and I couldn't help myself. I'm like, how come we don't have one of these? So right away, I'm like, we got to figure it out. So we're working on that through that new walkway next to the original Stagecoach building and the brand new building that's going in next to Jackie's Pub. that walkway cannot remain the way it is. It needs love. So within that area, we're looking at putting those wings in there, and our high school students are actually making the wings. And I think it's a wonderful partnership with the high school to bring those kids in, because we're all getting old and we need kids to come in and participate in all of this and take on the reins of art. We're also working on a downtown dining entertainment experience, because we're trying to drive business back into the downtown due to all of the chaos of ripping up their sidewalks. I had another event that I was thinking about and we briefly talked about, but it couldn't make it happen. It's just, we have too much. So next, you want to go to the next slide? So these are the things that I with my team, we've been talking about, and we need to get done, but it's just not happening. So we need to replace all the banners downtown. I know that sounds like, oh, that's no big deal. There are 3 different size banners, and you have to find them. We have them mapped out. We had them mapped out. The keeper of the maps has gone awry, so we don't know where the keeper of the maps are at the moment. So, and then you have to have special artwork for every one of those. That is months project just to do banners. I've always, and I heard Matt, this was something you wanted to do, veteran banners. I have always wanted to do that. That is you have to have a full-time person just to do that project. Just to get artwork from pictures from people that are usable, you can't even imagine. And that's a whole fundraiser project that has to happen. And there's money collections, and there's artwork, and there's somebody that has to lay it out. That alone is a huge project, but worthy of attempting. It's on my wish list. Cirque Italia is something we've been trying desperately to get things moved up towards the Lockport Square. That has been a huge feat that has been nearly impossible, but we've gotten the okay from Gary Janko, and this group comes out and they do basically like a Cirque du Soleil type thing, and they sell tickets, and we're trying really hard. But most of my phone calls are made on my breaks, during my lunch, after school. I try to zip by. I text Brittany frantically, and then we try to get all that stuff done, but we have not been able to connect with these people. We need to stay on it. It needs to be a regular thing. The stage coach walkway with the posters, my goal between the wings, we wanted to get the posters so people see the events that are coming up. These are all things that need to be art directed and taken care of. There needs to be lighting that's fun and whimsical. There's a darling archway walkway in downtown Geneva that I think we should kind of look at and pattern our thinking after, but it takes somebody to stay on it. The Opera House is coming, and that terrifies me and excites me because it is going to be amazing. And when it gets here, you're now going to have another place where cool things can happen, and that is a lot of entertainment activity. Our goal is to throw the biggest Gatsby-esque party when it opens. If you can imagine what that could possibly look like, because Jed is here and he will tell you about it, I hope, but it's going to be stunning, and it has great vision and great bones. And there's all kinds of other things working through that. But I also want to work with our history group with Laughs to get them to do the tour of the Opera House so that we can get the public in there and know its story, because we don't want stories to die. Zirko Productions, that's like one of our pet projects for me and Steve. We love the all-night flea market in Wheaton. And we approached, one day at lunch, I called the guy and I said, would you ever come to Lockport? We have a big area. Do you know where I'm talking about, where I would put it? Over by our new open area where the chamber is, or the old canal days.
The old Chevron property, yeah.
That's where we wanted to put it, right? He does an all-night flea. He's like, oh, yeah, I'd be interested. And then we got busy and we didn't follow up with him. So we need somebody that stays on those things so those properties get used and those people come down here and they use our downtown. And they come and love Lockport and they stay here. But we have his phone number, we're working with him, and we'll see what happens. Passports. We had the passports for the Ducks. They were always meant to be revamped just a smidge so we could add the new places in. Amanda, when she was here, that was one of her exclusive projects. It was one of the only reasons that I could get that done. I could not manage it. Steve could not manage it. It was too much. It is a massive undertaking that took us months to put together, and they were massively popular. I met people outside of our city carrying those little passbooks around. I was told repeatedly at Holiday Inn, they're like, please, when are you gonna get those in? Everybody loves those. They're gone. They need to be updated. The map for the Ducks needs to be pulled out. But we have so many wonderful new places that are here. They need to be added to it. Steve can't do it. All those graphics, I was looking at that and I was nearly like nauseous. All the graphics you saw for 2014, Steve does every one of those graphics for free. We don't have anybody on staff that does those kinds of things. We need somebody that can stay on that. We can't rely on him. And that's something that scares me regularly because it's very overwhelming. We still want to focus on these block parties for the neighborhoods. Not enough people took advantage of that. That's on us because we did not market it properly. These are things that we have the opportunity above and beyond what we're already doing and what we have in place. I leave you with this. Scott Poyton was in one of our meetings recently, and he said something to me. It was probably a couple months back, Scott, and he said, I love our partnership with the city. And I'm like, I do too, right? And he's like, but what happens when Steve's not the mayor, and what happens when you're not here at the Summer Art Series? What happens? What does that mean for all of us? And I said, I don't know, but that can't be, we can't have that as a problem. And I say that because I think it's necessary that I'm a volunteer, and I do what I do because I absolutely love our community. I do. I have my babies here. I have all of you that I know and love dearly that are here, and I appreciate, and my neighbors that I love and appreciate, and I adore Steve. So I will do whatever it takes to make this place successful. But I can't keep up with what's happening. We're bigger than when we started, and it's overwhelming. I want to stay on and help as best I can. This is not a volunteer situation anymore. You guys are at critical mass, and we need people, like a solid person on staff, so that if we walk away, it's not about us. It's still about Lockport. You need a keeper of the keys. That's what a marketing and event person does. And they know everything that's happening so that you don't have things that fall through the cracks. When Mark mentioned the American Legion, I didn't even know about that event. That's not okay. Those are things that we need to get on the calendar so that it gets out there. Because I always find if the mayor's wife doesn't know, I always wonder, does anybody know? Because I feel like I have a front row seat to everything. And those are things that concern me. Christine told me, she said, we didn't have the sweets crawl. And by the way, I got yelled at for that. I told her that. I said, I get stopped in the community, and they're like, why are we having the sweets crawl? I'm like, I don't run that one. But she said her weekend got taken. Those are things that can get fixed when you have an event planner and you have marketing. That should have all been in place already. Those are things that you guys have the power to control when you have a full-time person and not somebody making phone calls on their lunch or, coming after work or bombarding Brittany or bombarding Ben. I fear Ben doesn't even want to take my phone calls anymore. And it shouldn't be his job to get porta potties for the library, because that's what ends up happening. I end up calling, like, we need porta potties, we need to get the roads shut down. Somebody has to do that, and it shouldn't be Ben. And I'm not sure it should be me all the time either. So I was told too, I heard that they were like, well, we don't really have any events during the January to the May time. Well, that sounds pretty naive. That sounds like somebody who's never planned an event. All these events, the hardest work, and my team out here will attest, and any other one of you that have ever been involved in an event know The hardest amount of work is between January and May, because we're getting ready for all the blowout to happen in this next summer that's happening. So it's the behind-the-scenes work that you don't know about. It's the rack cards that I have to ride Steve and Ben and Brittany and whoever else to make sure that it gets done. There needs to be somebody that can just stay on that. Steve has to make those graphics, and he does it all like at 9 o'clock at night, because that's when he's done with his other job. So we need to kind of consider, like, how can this workload be shifted into the city itself so that we have access to it. Laying out the marketing materials has to be ready to go. We're going to C2E2 in March. That is an event that brings so much attention to the city of Lockport. Over 100,000 people attend that event, and a lot of them stop by our booth from Lockport, and they stand there and they say, and Scott and Evangeline can attest to this, I had no idea we were doing this in Lockport. And you're like, I had to come all the way to Chicago to tell you, but it's a marketing project that Steve created all the gorgeous booth graphics for, and it's all ready to go, and it's beautiful. With the chamber now in its place that it is, they hired a full-time person. They're looking to get another part-time person. Their mission is our businesses. I get that. Our mission here from the city of Lockport with our marketing and events coordinator is our community, and it becomes part of that economic driver to make these wonderful things keep happening. With having this full-time person, we're gonna hit the ground running in May, and we have never had that. I'm telling you right now, I've been doing this. We are limping. And you need to know that. We could be firing on all cylinders with this full-time job. And I'll tell you something else. I have tried to bow out gracefully 3 times, and we have hired a part-time person 3 times, and it has failed. And if somebody wanted to talk to me about that, or the mayor, or Ben, I'm positive they'll tell you what all of the things were that caused it to fail. And there is a plethora of reasons. I hope you will consider making this a full-time gig. You deserve it as a city. The community deserves it. We're ready for it. We are bursting at the seams with cool stuff happening. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you, Wendy.
Good job, Wendy.
Thanks, Wen. I really appreciate you coming in and you know, getting everybody up to speed on things that you've done and have been doing with the committee, and so thank you. I will, do we have any comments, or you guys want to?
I mean, just in summary, I mean, the current budget is proposed disposition, and, you know, I think current staff levels have tried to step up, as the one slide talked about, with one person doing 4 different things. I think it's prudent to bring us back to where we were, where we had 2 people before. So it's in the budget, and this is what we're recommending.
Sure. And I think, like, also, too, I know Matt, you and Karen, you guys were asking about all the events, this big spreadsheet, just, and I know that, you know, it's not that the city runs everything, but coordinating it, as like Wendy mentioned, so that there's not, when we first started this, and before we started pulling everybody together, we'd have like 5 events on the same day, because the Women's Club didn't know what the Historical Society was doing, who didn't know what the Park District was doing, and when we started, you know, taking a role as a city to look over that, when we had a person in this position, we were able to help with that calendar. That alone was a big deal. And then, of course, we're able to promote it, right? We have the marketing budget that we can help promote everybody across these things, because when any of these events successful, then we're successful. And then, like, the other thing too is it's about us creating continuity, right? I mean, I'm certainly not going to be here forever, and the council will turn over, and it shouldn't. Things like this need to be steady, and having a staff person that just gives continuity, you know, through councils and mayors is really an important thing. So, but again, thank you. I hope this brings everyone up to speed on kind of like all the events and how things, you know,
what's involved, so.
I'd like to just add a little something, if it's all right. So Wendy said it very well, that the city deserves it. Not only does the city deserve it, but all of you volunteers deserve it. You know, speaking of volunteers, the Lockport Women's Club is well represented here. With the Christmas Crossroads coming up, you guys start planning that the day after the second day of the event. I mean, it's a 364-day project, and, you know, again, like we mentioned, like was mentioned, when things fall on the same day, again, with the sweets crawl that we gave up, and because they did the Taste of Lockport, if you had someone that knew what was going on, then those crossings wouldn't happen. So not only does the city deserve it, the volunteers deserve it, and so do the residents, so they have someone that they can turn to see what's going on.
I'd like to add something too. Thank you guys for all coming out. I really appreciate it, and Wendy did a great job. On our side of it, it was a little hard to get through this because we were given the job description of marketing and events coordinator. However, we have a star person that also looked like they were doing that too. So we didn't know. We didn't understand why are there two people doing marketing? We didn't understand it at all. And then it came out kind of through working through and asking questions and doing what council members do, is we found out that there's definitely, like Ben showed in the graph, there's two very separate jobs. But we did not understand from looking at this big piece of paper here, we didn't understand that it was two different jobs. So, you know, you have to understand that we had to do our job. We had to do our due diligence. I don't think there's a single person on this board that doesn't understand what you guys have been through and your commitment and, you know, everything you do, and we really appreciate it. But as council members, we have to investigate this stuff and we have to ask questions. Because it's not just the fun events, it's the whole community as well, too. Are we spending the money correctly? Are we doing the right thing? Believe me, we all want an events coordinator, but we just don't. We had to get there. We had to find out, and we had to ask the questions. That's our jobs. And I'm sorry that some people are very upset at us, but we had to do it. We had to go through it. Thank you.
And I appreciate the due diligence of council, and also too, I know that, especially when it came to Matt and Karen, it was unfair because you guys really, it was hard to know because a lot of stuff kind of took a pause because of COVID. So it's, you know, maybe it's even harder to understand everything that's going on. So thank you for the opportunity to be able to share all this stuff and bring everybody up to speed on what's going on. So
yeah, I just had a couple of quick things. First off, thanks to all of you for coming out tonight. I really do appreciate all the work that you put in on your own time. You know, that being said, I think Wendy did an excellent job of going through Summer Art Series, and really, you know, I know she covered a lot of the content during the State of the City earlier this year, but I think it was good to go through it again, really, because it was a little bit of a refresher. You know, I probably missed a lot of that the first time around during the State of the City presentation. And really, you know, speaking on behalf of the Summer Art Series, I would really like to see more of the lead organizations, Main Street Women's Club, the Chamber, you know, come visit us on maybe a quarterly basis and tell us what's going on. Because, you know, I was the one that sort of advocated to have some type of a flow chart to, you know, give us a better idea of who handles what, so to sort of paint a picture of, you know, there's a lot of content here, and there's a lot going on, obviously. So, you know, I appreciate everybody putting this together and bringing us up to speed. I do realize that, you know, from an event standpoint, I think there's going to be more heavy lifting when it comes to Christmas in the Square, the car shows, and Old Canal Days. You know, that's on the last page here. So, you know, and those are three of our larger events for sure. So, you know, my question from here on out would be simply, probably from an administrative standpoint. You know, I know we throw the part-time out there, But, keep in mind that part-time could still be, and Ben, correct me, I'm not in HR or payroll, but, technically could still be up to 30 hours per week. And I know when we say part-time, do we have someone coming in and out of the office maybe 2 hours a day and maybe not making those phone calls and following up on things, maybe a person that could be in the office 9 to 3 every day or 10 to 4 every day. Does that maybe open up the possibility of a little bit of a wider pool of candidates? Because, maybe some people don't want to work on a full-time basis, or maybe aren't even comfortable with an in-office scenario, coming out of COVID. So I just wanted to throw that out for consideration.
We typically say 1,000 hours or less is our focus. 20, 30 hours a week doesn't matter too much. I think the reason, I don't feel a part-time role will be as effective. We've done, it's funny because most part-time people want to be full-time. They take the job and hope to, make something more of it. You lose some coordination, some focus. We've tried it even for public works jobs sometimes, and the talent pool that you try to get or find for part-time is sometimes hard. In this labor market, it's hard. In the job market, there isn't a lot of people. If they're not, looking for a professional role, how committed can they be if it's only 20 hours here or 10 hours there? They help, that's great, we always use it, but for someone to be a lead all the time for a sustaining effort, it really takes somebody to be full-time. Sometimes with part-time people, if you're doing 20, 30 hours, then someone has to manage and make sure they don't go over, what is it, the 32 hours or whatever it is, 30 hours. It triggers things like insurance and other legalities. They can run into overtime costs. We've tried things where overtime people are just trying to drive their hours more, depending on who they are and what the role was. So we found it to be problematic. It's not that you can't do it. I just don't think it's as effective. And I think it's certainly in this scenario that the full-time role is what we're suggesting.
If it was a scenario where, boy, we really found the right candidate and she or he would be fantastic at this position, but they really would prefer a part-time basis, is that something we would be open? I mean, sort of the other end of the spectrum?
Yeah, you never know, I guess. I mean,
Okay.
certainly anything is possible.
Okay.
But I guess we would have to see what the market bears and what the applicants look like.
Okay, fair enough.
What their talents are.
So I just wanted to kind of just put my 2 cents in. I was one that had thought, silly me, that perhaps we could gather the community and get volunteers. Well, I'm exhausted just hearing all the things that, the city does in general. I don't know that a part-time, in my opinion, would work. Because when you have such a responsibility to stay on top of things, there's no way that you can do it part-time. There's a lot of things that can still happen, but we have to have the right person, the time that person to invest in our city to help us get ahead. If we don't do something, it sounds like at this point, and like I said, there's a lot of stuff that we have potential for. I hate to see it pass us because we don't have the right person to help us. I think we need to market a full-time person who is good at what she does and has experience, because otherwise we're going to miss the boat.
Hold on just a minute. Matt said something that I want to expound on, is we should leave the opportunity open for a part-time and/or a full-time. And the reason being is maybe it's a person who has to go pick up their kids, or we have to have that flexibility, because the person that we're going to hire is going to be a creative, 100% in the mix kind of person. But the way our lifestyles are changing now, we have to be flexible. We can't say we want a part-time. It should be, we should open it up. We should open it up to maybe a part-time and maybe a full-time, and let's see what goes on.
And that's all fine and dandy, but I think our city is flexible with the staff that we have, that if they have to step out, I don't think that they're going to truly get penalized because they have to step out to pick up a child, or
This is
whatever
a,
the case may be.
This is a unique role, and many times events, as we all like to attend them, they're in the evenings, they're on the weekends, and so there could be what I would call some flex time. It's full-time, but they may not, work from 10 to 7 because, we make sure that they're earning the hours that they're getting paid for, but some of those are shifting. It's not a typical role. They're not coming in the office 9 to 5 and then staying to an event at 10 p.m. You have to be able to have flex time where they're, as long as they're working their hours to be earning that salary. But yes, we would definitely, if we, again, it's in the budget, if we post for it, depending on interviews, talents, resources, certainly if that star was a stay-at-home mom that still needed to have hours available to do something else, from 10 to noon or something, I'm sure because of the flex hours that are going to be required on nights and weekends, that could all be worked out operationally.
I would assume that it
Yeah.
was. I didn't think that,
Sure.
we would be so strict that that person
Right.
wouldn't have any flexibility. I'm just saying, hiring a person that is devoted and knows how to handle this type of position. And yes, of course, we have to make those, times where it may not be.
Something I would just handle operationally, administratively, and, we would post and we have the funding. If they end up working less hours and making less money, that's okay too. If it's the right person doing and they can still handle the job.
Just a clarification, so the three people that applied for the position as part-time and for whatever reason didn't work out, are we able to know what their situation was that they couldn't handle the position?
I'm happy to fill you in on that.
Yeah,
but
it is more personal.
I think it's probably better to talk about that kind of stuff off camera.
Oh, okay, all right.
So,
yes.
just out of respect
I
for
just
the
thought
folks
maybe
that
just
were doing the job.
Family, with
Yeah.
children or whatever.
No, it wasn't anything like that.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
And those people could be candidates in the future if they have experience, so.
Right.
I just want to, I also want to thank Wendy for a wonderful presentation. I also want to thank Christina for making a good comment, how basically we're not against it. I mean, we're just doing our homework, and and like Matt said, or everybody's saying, we have a lot of information here in front of us, and I think it's a lot of it where we didn't know all the roles where Lockport was involved. You hear old Canal days, and we say, oh, Lockport. It's like, no, that's the chamber. It's like, oh, Lockport runs this. Lockport. And I think there's a lot of confusion on where we were and what our involvement was in all the events. And this is a great topic, and we got a lot of clarification. And I also liked one of the comments that Wendy meant, and I actually said it to Steve yesterday. This is about where we're going in the future, because we're going to lose Steve and Wendy as the leads to that, of the Summer Art Series. And this is also putting that person in place for our future. And I think that's how we have to look at it also when it comes to the hire, not somebody about taking care of, next year's events, but who's going to be taking care of the events 5, 10 years, 15 years, like it was said. So, yeah, I just wanted to put my 2 cents in as well. And it looks like we have about 15 other people who want to add to it.
So if you guys are, we
Yeah.
can move on, that's
That's fine,
okay. All right, and then, all right. I think we only got, if you guys are okay, we can do the cards now, or do you guys want to do open comments? That's really up to you. I don't mind it, I don't know if,
Yeah,
all right. So, Bob Morris is here, he wanted to speak on this topic.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff. I'd just like to start out by saying thank you for all the stuff that you guys do. It's amazing. Coming from a previous city council that didn't collaborate quite so well. It's amazing to see the kind of things that are happening in the city, the kind of things that you're pulling together. And, it's not only the people of Lockport, but it's all the neighboring communities, and people quite far away are recognizing the cool things that this city is doing. We've changed our image, we've changed the perception of what this city is, and it's because of the kind of leadership that we've got here. So thank you. I'm going to go through a quick history course. This has been kind of a long evening. I'm going to try to like abbreviate this a little bit, but back in 1990, Mayor Bob Winveen appointed me to the Heritage and Architecture Commission. And in that time, you know, there's some stuff going on before that. It was kind of an amazing time in our history. It's like we were designated as a national historic district. We had a national Main Street program started in our community. We were making all kinds of great strides forward, and we're having buildings restored. We had millionaires investing money, restoring our building, this building, the Gaylor building, the Norton building, the Ace Hardware building, Thimbles. There's a lot of stuff that was going on. And a lot of it was because of the city's investment in our community. We had the Lockport Area Development Commission, LADC. It was executive director was Ann Hintz. She was paid, a full-time paid person that was running and coordinating our marketing efforts, our development efforts, lobbying efforts, all kinds of things that we're starting to bring all of these people, investors and things together into our community. We also were approached by National Main Street and made one of the first pilot Main Street programs in the country. Part of the National Main Street program's requirement for that was that we had to have a full-time paid director for that position. Main Street's mantra is historic preservation through economic development. So that person had to be involved in historic preservation and economic development. So basically we had two full-time people at that time doing a lot of the stuff that we're talking about with this event planner. And it paid off. We were making great strides. You know, I think we are incredibly benefiting from the work that happened in that time. After Bob Winveen and after that, some of the city leadership had a change of heart, and they weren't so interested in committing to professional leadership or event planning, marketing, and those positions were defunded. LADC dissipated because the funds for that were terminated. And it was, you know, I mean, I'm sure the city council was thinking, you know, we could spend our money on better things than on Main Street and on LADC. But the reality of what happened after that is our city took a nosedive. The events stopped happening, the development stopped happening. Our downtown had a lot of vacancies. And, you know, it's like only in this recent period here that we've seen that kind of development come back. And it's because we've built up a city council and administration that has a value in those kind of things. And we are hiring, I mean, I remember when we were on city council, our city finance manager didn't even have a degree in accounting. You know, it was basically somebody that was, it wasn't professional. Our financial reports were nothing like the ones that you get. The city, you guys have hired a city administrator that's got experience in city administration. So that's, I mean, we've made Lance, all of the people have done some great things. Let's see. I think that's, you know, I've got a lot more notes here. I'm just going to cut it off right there. So, I mean, I think this position is huge. And the track record of our city has shown that when we've had somebody like this in this kind of position doing these things, the city benefits. We get more economic development. We get more businesses. We get more people spending money in our community. It's a hugely important deal. So, thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
Thanks,
man.
Bob. Good job.
So we do try to do our 3 minutes with comment cards, but next person is John Lustig.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. I'm going to pivot because of the conversation. My previous job before we got back to town, I was the public art director for the city of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I was hired under soft money, which was, the Lancaster County Community Foundation funded this position. 80,000 people Pennsylvania Dutch country. We walked right in. Blue Dog Democrat mayor, right in the middle of, right, guns and Bibles era, right, with Pennsylvania. And walked in, a lot of policy wonking that I had to do, but immediately, so as you frame the position, I'm happy to look at it. I walked in, got a grant from Sprite, we got a piece of public art. It's tricky, and the challenge is for you in this role is that this needs to be a clearly defined role. These need to be clearly defined. Because not only was I policy wonking and overseeing projects and sculptures, but next thing I was getting pulled into ribbon cuttings and other community events. And because it was soft money, meaning foundation money, right, my heart was pounding like, we got to get out of here. And so it was a year and a half, and we got a lot done, and we got a lot accomplished. But I'm more than happy to look at the job description and even help vet candidates moving forward, because obviously 27,000, the capacity is a lot different than it was in Pennsylvania. So I just wanted to put that out there. And we're here. We want to be mentors. We want to lean in on our expertise every step of the way. So I just want to extend that out there. It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years since I've been here. We've been back to town, and I walked in and met with Mayor Trivedi, and big binder of about $8 million worth of art and sculptures that I had done. I'm like, okay, I got this, 27,000 people, Lockport. I had interviewed at the museum in 2001 before they walked in the Norton building. I'm kind of glad I didn't get the gig back then. Kind of glad we got it in 2012. And I said to Mayor Trivedi, and he was very flipped through the binder and okay, and I said, listen, Mayor, we're going to take, if we do this right, and we think about this correctly, that bean downtown that looks like a bag of Jiffy Pop popcorn ready to explode, we're going to take that, we're going to pivot off of that and make things explode out here in the region. And if those of you who know him, very kind and generous, gave me time, said, I'm retiring. You might want to meet the new candidates. So the candidate Straight and I met 3 months later at the 1836 event, and here we are 10 years later. This has been nothing but a model, and your support of us with the State Museum is incalculable, because we know the history of that, and that might be revisited on another day. I will say though that this is an immersion between the civic partners, the private partners, the sponsors, the development, as well as the city. The city has to lead this and has to point guard on this, only because we do rely on public works, we do rely on police, we do rely on these infrastructure needs that these earlier projects, the NEA grant, for example, yeah, we were making calls during installation. Bob remembers that. We were just, as we were putting the sculptures into the canal, we needed some extra support. Having those things in place, which now that we have that, now that we're building to that capacity, I think is really important and crucial. And I'm happy to lend my expertise on that moving forward.
John, I really appreciate it, man. I got a lot of cards.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate your insight and your offer to help, so thank you.
I'm out, yeah, I'm out. But it's been, let's think about the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Let's blow this up even bigger.
And thank you for all the partnerships and
Yeah.
coordinations. Thank you very much. Scott Strucken? Come on up, Scott.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me here. I have a lot to say after listening to everybody. Let me introduce myself. First of all, thank you for having me. My name is Scott Struchin. I was the founder of Tangled Roots Brewing Company, the Lock and Mule that's here. I'm currently opening another company with lots of hospitality and looking at a lot of towns to do a lot of development extremely important subject. And so when we talk about development, we talk about economic development. When you guys talk about marketing, talk about what kind of impact you guys are going to make. And so people like me who come and we look at small towns, and I'm going to use Ottawa as an example. I built the Lone Buffalo in Ottawa. I sit on a board there called the Ottawa Visitor Center of Tourism. They have 3 full-time people working on marketing in a town of 18,000 people. So this is an extremely important and delicate subject that you guys need to really think about. Because when I bring developers and like Aristotle Halikius of Intercontinental Development and Real Estate, and the guys that I know from the hotel groups and things like this, and we love this town. And can we all agree that we want to see people come and develop in this town? And we want to see this town grow, and you want to see young people here, and you want to see a thriving downtown. Well, how do you do that? How do you make that happen? Well, you make it happen through events. You make it happen when people like myself who come from Elmhurst or somewhere else, and they come and visit, and they say, this is the place that I want to be. I want to live here, right? I want to open a business here. Let's do something together. Without that, you won't have people here. I'm just going to be clear. Aristotle, Halikius, and developer groups like that will not come if you don't have activations and things that need to happen. Here's a great story. Starting my hospitality company, I'm looking for an HR firm, right, that does kind of everything. Inspirio is a company that I was talking to, so I called them and set a meeting. In fact, I just flew in from Las Vegas having a meeting with a big company.
Hey, Scott, if you don't mind, if you could use the microphone like we talked to.
So I just met with this young lady over a Zoom call. Well, her and her husband moved to Lockport. They're in their young 30s, and all she could talk about is how great Lockport is. Right? That's all she could talk about. I don't know this person. She didn't know that I had the Lock and Mule. It was a very interesting conversation, and what an impact this town has made. They moved from another suburb to be here. That's the story. How did you know about Lockport? Because they have all these awesome restaurants, right? They have all these awesome places and things to do. So this is the story of what drives the economic development, what drives investors like me, developers to come into this town. Because you have to keep it going. And when I hear, and I'm just gonna be brutally honest, I hear you don't have a marketing person. I mean, guys, you're Lockport. You're one of the greatest cities to live in. Weren't you just voted this? One of the greatest places to be?
Strongest town, yes.
Right, strongest town. Top 10, right, on a magazine. I think I saw it. Lockport is an important piece of the puzzle. You don't want people to end up the street or down the street. You want them to develop here and develop this downtown through events, through making things happen. Getting awareness is how that's going to happen. It's so important that you have somebody putting your name out there so people travel here, because without it, you're not going to have more development. I'm here looking at another building with a nice young man that's sitting in the back, right? Currently, right now, to do a project. Is that important? I think we can all agree that having development is important, correct? Having people come through your downtown and shop, eat, and then eventually stay and live. That's important. So I hope that you guys see me, because I think this is a very important conversation. And I think it's very important that everybody here agrees that you want to see the betterment of Lockport, and you want to see it grow and thrive through that. And remember, when you have hotels, you got pillow tax, right? When you have restaurants, you got retail tax. When you have people coming through, filling up their gas. These are all things that benefit your city to help you guys grow and give you the infrastructure. All right?
Scott, I appreciate your insight. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
I think Jed and Ramones, you guys want to speak?
Hi, good evening.
Yeah.
My name is Gedrus, and that's my partner Ramunas. Both of us Lithuanians. So we're the owners of that 1000 State Street building. Thank you very much, guys, what you're doing with the city of Lockport. Only one question that I should ask, why it took so long? Only one question that I have, why it took so long? I moved to Lockport back in 1997, not by choice, by mistake that my girlfriend.
Like,
brought me
by
here.
mistake. I thought I was in Chicago.
And because we're Lithuanians, and she said, "Oh, it's a very nice town next to Lamont. That's where a lot of Lithuanians live." Okay, so Lockport. And every time when I was driving through the State Street, I was looking to those beautiful buildings, and I was thinking, why? Why are we sleeping? Why nothing is going on? Why we're not Naperville? But finally, this one happening. And I'm so, so happy. Called myself Lockportian. So me and Ramunas, we're friends. We met through the gymnastics. We didn't go to gymnastics, but our kids went to gymnastics. So
I can just picture you guys on the trapeze.
right.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
And then we were sitting watching kids exercising, blah, blah, blah. And Ramunas, he's the builder, and he lives in Highland Park. That's, originally, that's where I used to live, back in Winnetka, when I came to United States. So, and I always wanted to be the north side person, because we have a lake. But right now, I want to retire here. And if I will retire here, I want that city to grow. And we need to dream. We need to dream big, because everything starts from the dream. My dream was come to United States with the 2 luggages, with no English. I landed at the airport. I pick up the phone, and phone talks. Phone talks to me, and I said, what the? I didn't know how to, but I did it, And so we're investing in the city of Lockport. Thank you for your help, for the money that you're giving to us and helping us. And we're investing close to $2 million. So let's find the money for that planner. Full-time planner, not I can donate $5 from every car that my detail shop. If that's the issue, and maybe we'll find somebody else who will do the same thing. Because without the marketing, nothing is gonna happen. People knows us because we're already Lockport. Not a Lockport, New York, but Lockport, Illinois.
Right on. Thank you, Jed. Appreciate it, man. Steve Winters. And we still got a lot of cards, so if you guys can keep it concise to 3 minutes.
Yeah, I know, I'm going to edit this whole thing. Steve Winters.
I do appreciate all the comments, and I know it's hard to say because I know all you people, and you put hundreds of hours in, and you deserve to be able to speak. But so I hate saying that even. I know. No, 3 minutes starts when I shut up. So
Steve Winters with Main Street Lockport. Lockport events matter. Some of the things that events bring to the community, improve quality of life, retain residents. Community events are well attended by the locals. They enhance the community pride, advocacy, and loyalty. They also attract visitors, increase revenue, can be marketed and promoted to bring in visitors from local residents to regional to long-distance travelers. So each visitor is a potential customer. They help build a customer base, help recruit new businesses. Gatherings of people create a vibe, and foot traffic is a sign of a vibrant community. Pedestrians have a more detailed view of the business's offerings, and events put potential customers right at the point of sale. They can also help capture traffic. Our intersection, 9th and State, has around 64,200 passengers per day passing through. That's like 23 million people a year coming right through our downtown. Community events provide a reason to stop, shop, and dine, increasing the revenue. It begs the question, what's going on over there? Should I check it out? you see some event going on. So it's a huge draw. And they define an image, attract residents and businesses. Lockport's known as an old canal town and the city of historic pride. Events can help reinforce these images. These themes have attracted a number of businesses: Public Landing, Embers, Stagecoach, Lock and Mule, the new Opera House building. So it just reinvests in the community. I also, everybody's talked about, I mean, we've got like dozens of local event organizers. They talked about the Women's Club, we got Sister Cities, we've got Main Street. We're all contributing, and we all interface with the city and need services and coordination with the police and Public Works. So it's huge to be able to have a point of contact at the city to help manage all these events that are disparate groups coming together to put on these things. There's a thing beyond that. We also have some national, state, and regional partners that are part of this picture. National Historic Trust, we're a registered historic district. The Gaylord Building's a National Historic Site. We've got the National Heritage Corridor. There's a whole association with the Illinois Department of Tourism, Route 66 Centennial organizations, Canal Corridor, Forest Preserve District of Will County, Heritage Corridor. There's just a ton of opportunities that we can reach out to and market. If we have a dedicated person that's working with all these groups, it's going to pay big benefits in terms of tourism.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Steve, for coming out and sharing, man. I really appreciate your thoughts.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Scott Poynton from our library.
Thank you all for letting me speak tonight. I'm going to talk fast. Wendy mentioned the Lockport Women's Club, so I'm going to quickly give a shout out to them because they founded the library 100 years ago, and we would not exist otherwise. I'm speaking to you tonight from the perspective of a partner agency that has worked with the city over these years. This partnership between the city and the library, obviously the Summer Art Series got things rolling in 2014, I think it was said. We kind of jumped on board in 2015, which was the year that we launched our first Comicopoulos event. We had no idea what to expect. We just wanted to plant a flag in the ground here in Lockport and say this is where there's going to be a Comic-Con type event in the southwest suburbs. And we would be happy if there was 500 people that first year, and there were 800 people that turned out. The next year there was 1,000, and on upwards it went. Year 5, we crossed the 2,000 attendee threshold. And we would not have been able to grow that quickly in that manner, that successful of a manner, without this partnership with the city. So it's been hugely important, cross-promotion of the event, multiple events of the libraries, but especially the Comicopoulos event. Billboards, the rack cars, the partnership with C2E2, that booth there, it's all huge. And it really drove up attendance. And it's allowed us, because we're not the city, we're a library, we think about library things, it's allowed us to kind of have a little bit of a mind shift of, this is great, it's a library event, it's pulling people to the library, it's pulling people to the downtown, and it's benefiting the businesses in the downtown. That's not something we would naturally think about, because we're a library. So that partnership with the city is really what brings that all together. And this partnership with the city is leading to us, I don't want to say too much about it, but we're starting to explore a new project that might take a couple years to come to fruition. But if we can pull together some grant money and make this happen, we'll enhance outdoor events in the downtown forever. So I would say marketing is crucial. I'm the director of an underfunded organization that, if you want someone to turn nickels into quarters, find yourself some librarians, that's what we do. And I can say from experience, 2/3 of our staff are part-time, enormous turnover, enormous. And so turnover is devastating to event planning and project, completion. So imagine if you're halfway through the conception to the execution of a project or a major event and that person decides to leave and go get a full-time job. It's devastating. We see that weekly at the library. So this partnership has really helped us as an organization that's underfunded and has lots of part-time people to amplify what we're able to do. The partnership with all the other Summer Art Series members, it helps us to take what we're doing and amplify it and make it bigger and better, and it electrifies this town. So,
Thank you, Scott, very much for your insights. All right, and last card is, last card I have is Nick Moreau. Nick, you guys may recognize Nick from making your old fashions.
I make an old fashioned for some people around here. I recognize some of you. We're not open tonight, though. Don't go there after. I'm here on behalf of Dave and Ed Mead, and they own Embers. Wendy did a great job telling the story that I was going to tell. So I'm just kind of here to reiterate. They were thinking about buying the building that is now Embers back in 2014. They showed up to the steampunk event and they were just amazed. They love a good event. They showed up in their glasses and their leather and they got into it and they were amazed at the party, and it literally convinced them to create an event space at Embers. So we now have a second floor event space that was going to be apartments. So they decided, based on the events, that it was going to be apartments there. So Wendy told the story absolutely correctly. So now we have an event space, now we have a speakeasy, and now we're drawing people in, and it's amazing. They drew me in from the city. I'm a lifelong city guy, and now I live in Lockport. And I got to tell you, I love it. I love it. I love that Creme is here. I love that I can go walk and get coffee now like I'm in the city. I think that's amazing. And another, maybe one more thing I thought that I could add that might convince you that this needs to be a full-time position is I have just gone through and, hired a marketing guy. And there are so many different avenues of marketing right now. I've literally been on a Zoom meeting like every week for the last 2 months. This company will do this. This company will make sure your address and hours are accurate on 86 different websites. I didn't know we were on 86 different websites, but they're going to go ahead and do it. There's another marketing, the graphics, the fact that the mayor did all those graphics back then, that's a huge job, whether it's video content, whether it's, sorry about that, whether it's just a graphic putting up, it's the planning involved. This is a full-time job for a city like this. It's not a part-time job, guys. And I just hope you guys go ahead and do it.
Thanks.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you. Well, I'll just wrap CA1 up with just a big thank you for just the community and everything, everybody's, all the hundreds of hours that everybody out here has put in and the passion. So thank you for, it's not often we get a lot of people come to a meeting, so I appreciate you guys came up and spoke your mind on it. So thank you very much, and thank you for all your efforts. Appreciate it. I always say I never feel bad if after whatever you came here is up and you walk out. You're welcome to stay, but I don't feel guilty if you're like, I'm done, dude, I got to go. So, but you're welcome to stay. We'll move on with CA1 facade and site improvement grant reimbursement request for 1026.
This could be the most exciting case that you've heard all night. The applicant, Keith Carberry, representative and commander of the Lockport VFW, Post 5788, is requesting funds through the city's facade and site improvement grant for replacement of a monument sign for the property located at 1026 East 9th Street. 3 contractor bids for the new monument were received for the project. They were in your packet. The facade grant program allows for a 50% match up to $20,000 per facade and $10,000 for site improvements, with a maximum of $50,000 per property. The applicant is eligible for $10,000 under the site improvement component. Maximum amount allowed for the site improvements based on the lowest quote of $46,632. To date, the City Council has approved $74,427 of the $160,000 budgeted amount. which is 46.5%. Including this $10,000, we will be at 52.7%, $84,427. This is related to resolution number 22-107. We recommend consideration on action or consent for next meeting.
All right. Any questions, concerns, thoughts? All right, we all good with consent on that one? Okay.
Looks good.
All right, CA2.
The applicant, Joseph Caffarini from the veterinary clinic, is acquiring additional land to accommodate parking needs for his successful business. The location is on your screen. It's at 1139 East 9th Street. It's impressed with a special use permit for a planned development, which is what brings us here tonight. In order to accommodate their parking needs, which is also shown on the screen, the applicant desires to acquire approximately 3,500 square feet from the of land from his neighbor to the south and consolidate with his existing property. Will basically move the property line, and they have offered a plat of consolidation. Plan and Zoning Commission heard this at a public hearing on November 8th, 2022. They made a recommendation with a vote of 5-0 to approve the following: a rezoning from R1 single-family residential to C2 community commercial. Item 2, an amendment to the special use permit for a planned development for a veterinary hospital to allow for expansion of the parking lot. And 3, final development plans for a parking lot expansion. This is related to ordinance 22-026, and we would request consideration either on consent or action at the next meeting.
Yeah, any questions, concerns? I think it's great. It's a big steep hill there. I guess they got that all figured out, though.
2 retaining walls are going to bring it up. It's a challenge of success. He has become so successful beyond what he thought he would be able to initially, and so he's literally trying to find every square foot that he can to park additional cars.
That's great.
They've tried shared parking with the adjacent neighbors, but as you all know, the donut shop is also very successful.
Yeah.
And so they are challenged to offer parking spaces that are close to theirs, and Muir Plumbing had the house there that they recently demoed too.
Very good. All right, thank you. Is everybody good with consent on that? Okay. And then CD3, our self-storage facility.
This next case, the applicant Gus DeLay, on behalf of Jacob Development, is seeking approval of final development plans for a self-storage center on Lot 6 of Lockport Square at Farrell Road. The applicant was going to be here tonight, however, his father fell, and so he's in the emergency room right now with him, so he wasn't able to be here, so I will answer any questions if there are any. Final site plan is consistent with the approved primary preliminary plan. The location is on your screen. The proposed self-storage facility consists of a 4-story building having a total of 117,600 square feet. The plan includes the elevations for the architecture as well as the site plan on your screen. The architecture was modified based on commentary from both the Plan Commission and the City Council related to the bright yellow stripe that was on the previous design. We had him tone it significantly back and feel very much more comfortable with what the design currently is. The item was heard at the Plan and Zoning Commission on November 8th. They made a recommendation with a vote of 5-0 to approve the following motion: a motion to recommend approval of the final development plans for a self-storage facility on Lot 6 of Lockport Square, Farrell Road, subject to the following condition. All remaining items from engineering review number 3 memo dated November 8th are to be addressed. The one outstanding item is a photometric plan. We are working with them on the lighting plan just to make sure that we can get them to meet our code requirements. That's the only outstanding item on that engineering plan. We would request consideration of Resolution 22-110 for consent or action at the next meeting.
All right, any questions, concerns? You guys okay with the consent on it? All right, thank you. And then our property tax levy.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Property tax levy, fun, right? Now you're all excited.
That slide looks good.
Right, I'm going to try and go fast here so I don't put you all to sleep. Property taxes are, it's based on the value of your home. Okay, so I'm going to kind of walk you through how we get there and what part becomes ours and what becomes part of the county. So you can see this is one individual's tax bill, and 62% of the tax bill is schools. It's related to the schools. The city's a small 9% portion of your tax bill. Fire protection's at 12%. We use about 35% of our revenues come from property taxes, 23% from sales taxes, 18% from state income tax. I went back and looked back to 2014, and our reliance on property taxes were 41% back then. So we're moving in the right direction by starting to lower our reliance on property taxes to fund the city's operations. So how the levy is created. The county is the one who assesses the value of the property, and then the CPI is determined from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. The city then proposes a tax levy. We're reviewing it here at the Committee of the Whole. We would hold a public hearing if we were looking to raise our levy by 5% or more, which we're not. Then we'll be looking for the council to approve the tax levy at the next council meeting in December, and then we'll file it with the county before the end of the year. So I just want to remind everybody that what we're using is estimates. We will not have final figures for what the property values are in the city until the springtime. So what I'm proposing to you today are based on estimates. We won't know exactly what those all flush out until later in the springtime. I do want to point out, though, that the new growth is estimated at 13 million. Last year, it was at 21 million. I'm hoping that next year, with all these property, these building permits that are being taken out, that we're going to see it soar even more.
Lisa, how often do you find, I know it's always a struggle because you got to estimate, how often when you get the real numbers, do you find how close do we come?
Oh, we're not that, a couple percent of a, we're talking about the tax rate.
Hmm?
Yeah, it hasn't varied very much. Yeah.
So your estimates are really good, they're close.
They're close.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's hard, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what is the tax levy fund? So the corporate levy, the general city's operations, so administration, audit, finance. We have the police department is funded by the property tax levy, EMA, the pensions, liability insurance, street lighting, and then, of course, any bond interest that we have that's being paid with property tax dollars. This is a schedule that I always like to look at, and this is what the assessed value is. This is what the county does. They come up with the assessed value, and you could see this is the 8th year in a row that our valuations have increased. So there's an inverse relationship between what your house is assessed at and what the tax rate is. So when the assessed value goes up, that means our tax rate goes down, and I'll show you in the next slide what that means. But we're looking at an increase this year of 67 million. Part of that comes from, this is a quadrennial assessment year, so every house in Lockport was increased by 6% across the board. Now, you may have some increase on top of that if you'd made some adjustments to your house, renovations, whatever, put an addition onto it, but on average, everybody was increased by a 6%. So this is the tax rate, and you can see, like I said before, 8th year in a row of the assessed value going up. Our tax rate is going down for the 8th year as well. So if you really look at that difference between 2014, when we had that high of 0.998, now we're looking at a 0.78. So I applaud you all for continuing to move this in the right direction and helping our residents to lower the tax rate. So the levy that I have proposed is 7.3 million. Of that, bond and interest is about $1 million. CPI this year was 7%. I mentioned to you before that if we were going to raise the levy by more than 5%, we would need a public hearing. What I'm proposing is that we only look at a 3% increase in the property tax levy. And part of that is because the strategic planning initiative that we had this year that just got passed was reducing the property tax rate by 10% over the next 3 years. What this 3% increase, it comes out to about a 2.8% increase. So we're on our way to help meeting that strategic planning initiative. So I'm not coming to you with the full 5% or not even that full 7% that we could have taken. So yes, I'm asking you to leave a little bit of money on the table, but I do think that this is the right year to do it. Revenues have been really good, building permits, income tax revenue, sales tax revenue. All of those revenues are doing well, and it's time for us to start paring back our reliance on property tax revenues. So I'm hoping that you will all agree with that take.
All right. Thoughts, questions? Oh, I'm sorry, were you done? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I thought that was the big finale there. My apologies. Yeah.
So I'd just like to give a comparison of what, if your market increase to your house was at 3%, what it would look like to your tax bill. So if your house last year was worth $250,000 and this year it would be worth $257,000, your actual tax bill for the city would go up by $2.17. Now I'm looking for questions.
Sorry. Yeah, I always wish they'd value my house at 0, seeing as I plan to die in it. It's like, going up in value doesn't help me at all. But, all right, this is very good. Any questions, thoughts?
Okay, so we'll have the ordinance in front of you next council meeting for a vote. Did you want a consent or action item for that?
It's up to council. What do you guys want to do? Are you okay with the consent on it?
Actually, I'm okay with it, but a clarification on CA1.
Yeah.
That's not part of the list. No, okay, so is that a question later?
Well, why don't we just wrap this up and then,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm okay with this, yeah.
We okay with the consent on this? All right. I'm sorry, Mark, what's your question about CA1?
Wondered about CA1, we didn't have a consent or action, so, can we have a 2-level action for CA1 where it's just, yeah, you want full-time, or yeah, you want part-time, and just vote?
We could. You guys want to do like just a straw poll to see if it's necessary, or you just vote again? I mean, I guess what's the consensus? You guys want to do if it's in the way it's in the budget is the full-time person, that's the way it was set up the first time. If you want to change that,
No,
then.
that's not what I meant.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, what I meant was, are we saying if we approve it as is, the city administrator can only go after a full, but can't be flexible if he needs to be?
I see. Like, in other words, if there's like some, I don't think
Magical perfect person, you don't know. I mean, I guess my take from this is that it was on the agenda as a clarification. It was actually information only. My contention is that it's part of the budget, just like the other positions that are approved as part of the budget process. I would feel empowered to go hire that position and find the right talent for the right role. If that ends up being something that's not exactly, 9 to 5 full-time, that's fine, we'll just have budget
That was my only
savings.
clarification.
Okay.
So CA1 was informational.
Yeah, this is like, and I apologize, like I told you guys, it's like, but I needed to talk about these events and clarify it. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm so familiar with these things that it's always in my head and I know it and I just assume everybody does, and so that's on me. So I apologize for getting all this kind of information to you so late, and I think that caused some of the issues, so my apologies to you. But yeah, this was just information so that I could get everybody up to speed.
Yeah,
so.
and I felt, I would apologize as well, because it was a existing position that was vacant that we were refilling, and we didn't kind of pitch it in the budget the same way we do as other new positions, so it was confusing.
And it's hard to say part-time, full-time, because this person, in order to reach people, like business owners, might be making calls at 8 o'clock at night. So she's not going to be in the office every day from 9 to 5. She's going to be she, whatever.
He or she, yeah.
I mean, everyone's worried about the part-time,
We hit
full-time.
on something that I want to add to the job description, which is flex time. And it's something that we started to do with our past events person because we were running into overtime problems. And it was like, hey, we need to be clear about that and be distinct in the job description and the interviews, that the expectation is that you're here for these events. That doesn't mean you're working from 9 to 5 and then here from 6 to 10. That's too long of a day. You'll be coming in at noon and going home at 10 if you have to work that night. So it's definitely some management by me, just like we do with all the other staff, but I mean, that's something that we operationally will handle.
And it's also a job title change.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think
Right.
we had some
Yeah.
clarification
Yeah.
that.
That's how it
Putting-
started getting all confusing.
Okay, yeah.
This
Thank you.
marketing and events coordinator, I'm sorry.
No.
Are we going to rewrite this? Because this is kind of cut and paste from Lamont.
Yeah, especially on some of the comments that we took and some takeaways. And when we were doing some of our additional research, when we started getting so many questions, we were looking at some of the other communities, and we actually liked some of the things we saw. So before we would post, we're going to make sure that we kind of redefine it a little bit and post for what we think is proper and accurate, and clarify. I've already talked to existing staff about their roles and how secure they are and what they're doing. So we had a lot of clarifying to do, so.
Okay.
Then going back to FN1, I want to say thank you again to Lisa for all the hard work you do with the finances, and I actually do enjoy reading your twice monthly reports, once monthly reports. I do go through all the PDFs. It is enjoyable, and you're doing an incredible job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm always amazed because numbers just go right over my head, so I'm like, wow.
Just want to point out that Joanne just called me a nerd, so, thanks.
That's okay, my artwork looks like a kindergartner did it, so we all have our place.
Okay. All right, so FN2, I feel like I'm saying something naughty. All right, FN2 is, what do we got?
2022 budget amendment is what I have in front of you. Let me change this. Okay, so there's just 4 line items that I would like to do a budget amendment for. The top 2 are both the revenue and the expense that pertain to the school resource officers. So that was a position, those 2 officers that we had, the school funded them, so the revenues increased, and also our expense was increased so that we could hire those 2 people. So we needed to do a budget amendment for that. The next line item is being asked to have an amendment because of the small business grant. So I went ahead and put what council approved for us to spend up to that $150,000. We don't have all of the information in yet, but I want to do a budget amendment to capture it here before the end of the year, that the amount that we were authorized to spend up to. And then the 4th one was to update the TIF consultant line item, and that's for the environmental work that was done at the Tassoni property. So it was approved by council. All of these were basically approved by council. It's just a formality now to get this updated so that our budget is amended for those types of changes that we had. So I'm looking for consent if we could on that item as well.
It would actually require an action because it requires supermajority vote, so I would recommend putting it on action.
Interesting.
All right.
Okay.
Any questions on it? Is it all clear to everyone? Okay, then we'll have an action, please.
Okay, the last item for me right now is the property and casualty insurance renewal. So what we're showing you today is only a draft, it's a preliminary number. So for whatever reason, the insurance carriers are taking a really long time to get us the information. So we know that this is a worst-case scenario. It has a potential because our broker works really hard for us to help to drive down these numbers for us. So this is what Travelers, who we have as our policy holder right now, this is the increase that they're proposing for us. The majority of that increase has to do with the fact that we did a property evaluation this last year. So it was something that council had given us direction to go ahead and do. We did that, but that increased our assets by 27%. So we had not done an analysis like that since 2014. It was time. Now we have our assets at the correct replacement cost, but yes, it did help to drive up our premiums a little bit. It's not a horrendous number, but it is, some of it has to do with the fact that we have a higher valuation on our assets, which is the appropriate thing to do. The other item is workers' comp. That has a 15% increase. At this point, I'm hoping to see that number goes down as well. That has to do with the value of how much our employees are making, some new hires that we had, including the SROs. So we have more employees that are helped to driving that number up, and it's not just, the number of claims that we've had, because Maggie has worked extremely hard with our departments, police and public works, to have safety committees. They review every single accident we have. They come up with recommendations and policies. So she's really on top of that, and I thank the departments for allowing her in there to help to drive down those costs. So although those seem like they're high numbers, we did budget appropriately. These numbers are coming in under our budgeted figures. I'm going to ask that this goes on action just because we don't know exactly how much those numbers are going to come in at, if at all there's any type of decrease. So any questions on that item?
All right, then we'll put it on for action. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Baxter Woodman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is item this evening that is very important for our Division Street treatment plant. As we have discussed previously throughout budgeting and throughout our planning meetings, the Division Street treatment plant is a portion of it is 60-plus years old. So we have some areas of the plant that are beyond reasonable lifespan. The concrete is deteriorated. We have structural issues. We have steel issues. So we have a need for a replacement of a portion of the plant and then an expansion of the plant to continue to serve the needs as the city continues to grow and expand and take on new developments. So this evening, we would be asking for council's consideration to move forward with Baxter and Woodman for the design of our Division Street treatment plant. And again, this would take our plant from today, it's a 5 MGD plant, 5 million gallons per day is treated through there. 1 MGD, so 1 million gallons, is the original plant. That was the late 1950s plant. That is no longer able to be sustained. So that has to be taken down, removed. We build a new 1 MGD and then expand it to 6.2. So it's actually 2.2 MGD, million gallons a day, of new plant. So,
So you're saying that ultimately it'll be 7 point?
it'll be 6 point, I know it's hard to.
Oh, because you're taking the one out, because
we're
that's
taking
old.
the-
I got you.
Right,
I
we're
understand.
taking the one out, so it's total of 6.2. And again, that 6.2, we feel very confident that everything that is tributary to that plant, so we have our Bonnie Bray plant, we have our Division Street plant, this 6.2 MGD is capable of treating us well into the future, 20, 30, 40, 50, I would say 50 years, we are well into the future if we can get to the 6.2. We're right up against it right now, but again, based on what we have available properties, this is going to, take care of us for the distant future.
So when, the design is done, and, then we get the cost of what it actually is gonna, be to do the project, I know oftentimes we talk about there's certain kind of low-interest grants loans that you get for this kind of projects. Is that something that takes a long time to apply for? How?
We've actually submitted the first document to get on the list for that. So the EPA does provide low-interest loans. Those low-interest loans are on a revolving fund, so they are, basically every year they have a certain amount that comes available. In order to be, for that to be a viable option, you have to be on a list. So we've submitted the paperwork to get onto that list. Doesn't mean you have to take it, doesn't mean you ever have to use it, doesn't mean anything. It just means we're trying to get a placeholder in line. So long story short is we're gonna be on that list, and it'll be an available option if this, city council chooses.
Okay.
That'll be a conversation with the CIP as that all rolls out, and we have those longer conversations.
Sure.
Some of it will be paid by cash, some could be loans, some could be bonds. I mean, those are all part of the debate.
Okay, understood. All right, my friends, are you okay with the consent on this, or where do you want to go? Good? All right, consent. Thank
This
you.
won't all be paid out at the same time. It'll take time, years to pay this $4 million.
Okay. And then lastly, we have the release for the bond for JP McMahon.
Item number 2, PW-2, JP McMahon is now complete. We are asking for council to consider accepting all of the improvements, and as usual, this would be in exchange for a 10% one-year maintenance bond. We would provide them their existing surety back, and we would have 1 year from the date of acceptance, which would be the date of council's acceptance. Asking for council's concurrence for resolution 22-106.
All right. We have everybody good? All right, let me put that on consent as well. Thank you. All right. Main new business, pretty good. Then we're just looking for a motion to adjourn. All right. Renee and JR, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
2-minute break.
All right, Saban. Okay, thank you. All right, Bartleson.
Oh, yeah, we'll get it over to him. Thank you.
Bartleson.
Yes, here.
Bergbauer.
Here.
Lobes.
Yes.
Galogly.
Here.
Karas.
Here.
Kostecki. Here. We have a quorum.
All right. Looking for a motion to have a consent agenda this evening.
So moved?
All right. I think it was Mark and Karen, is that right?
Mark and Karen?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we're looking for a motion, or we already got it. So on tonight, we've got committee of the whole meeting minutes from November 2nd, regular city council meetings from November 2nd. We have our bills through November 8th, our payroll period ending October 30th. There's appointment of Patrick McDonald here for the vacancy of our friend Larry Schreiber. There's a facade grant request for 113 East 9th Street. There's the providing a one-year extension for the approval of concept plan down there at Serenity Landing. We've got a release of the development financial surety for GLQ LLC, a release of the bond for the tennis court, and then release of a letter of credit for Style Line custom cabinetry. So looking for a motion to approve.
Second?
All right, Renee and Mark, and can we do a roll call, please?
You got it. Saban. Yes. Bartleson.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Lobes.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
Karas.
Yes.
Kostecki.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Let me get to swear at Pat McDonald. So, no, I'm sorry, swearing in Pat McDonald. Yeah. Come on up, Pat.
I just,
It's the one thing I do.
Yeah.
The one thing I can speak.
Here, join me. I'll take a picture. Yeah, I just don't want to give anybody food.
Are you gonna be up here with me?
All right, come over here.
Oh, over here.
Nice to meet you, sir. All right, you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Patrick McDonald, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Ward 2 according to the best of my ability.
That is different.
We'll decide later whether you get those dates.
We all have one.
We all have one?
We all have one.
All right. If you don't have one, get that.
Oh, wait a minute, you gotta sit down now.
JR.
Yeah, and so we always bring it first.
Oh, we have to do the public hearing.
And Elise.
Oh. Yes.
Nice. We're hoping the white hair just increases the wisdom factor, right, of our I know. Yeah, me and J.R. have no air, so we like. All right, very good. All right, so first thing we got now is FM1 is approval of lease auction through the cell at auction.
Yes, so at the last council meeting, we talked about, we have 3 cell tower leases, and we would like to go out to auction to sell off those 3 leases. So we get about $75,000 of revenue a year for this, and we're looking for a lump sum payout. So Sell at Auction has agreed to do a listing agreement for us for this auction, and we're just looking for council to approve that listing agreement. Now, once we do have those bids, we have the ability to reject them if they do not meet our unpublished reserves, or we can accept any of the 3. So we have that ability to do that if you guys so approve it, and we will bring back those for approval.
All right, so do you want us to vote on the approval for the auction?
The listing agreement, just to go out for auction.
Okay. All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve FN1.
I have a question.
Well,
You gotta approve it.
we talk after
sorry.
we approve. Yeah.
Second.
So Renee and JR. Okay, Christine, I'm sorry.
I sent you an email, and I just want to confirm what I understand, is that if they put something on those towers because of our ordinances, we can say we don't want them on there, like a 5G?
So they have their equipment on there right now. They have the ability to maintain or change out their equipment. So if they want to move from 4G to 5G, they have the ability to change out their equipment, okay? If they want to expand space and they need to increase the lease for that space. So if they want to add additional equipment, so not replacing what they have, but if they want to add additional equipment, that has to come to us through our permitting process.
Okay.
Okay? And then they would be hopefully offering us more money to be able to do that, and that would be completely different. We would bring that back to you, okay?
And that's existing today. I mean, they have the ability to do that today.
So the rights that we have today, this is what we understand, is the rights we have today are the rights we're going to have after we sell off those leases. All we're not getting is an annual revenue stream of $75,000 a year. That's what we're going to take a lump sum payout. But all the rest of the authorities that we have today are the same authorities we're going to have after we sell off these leases. Okay?
And if we sell 2, let's say, but 1 remains,
Yes.
we continue to collect on that lease, correct?
Exactly, exactly. They're all individual leases, so, but we're just trying to lump sum, putting them together because I think we'll get a better price from somebody. But we'll see what they come back as, and if they don't meet the unpublished reserves, we have every ability to reject those. Yes, Pat?
Lease implies there's a term on that.
Yes.
What's the term on the lease?
So each one are different. Each one has a different term. I think 2050, 2039, they're all different. Everyone has their own because they were all negotiated at different times. Some of them back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. We've had amendments to them afterwards that have increased the lives, but I don't think anything goes past 2059. That's my recollection.
Any other questions, folks? Okay, then we already did our motion to approve, so we can do a roll call.
You got it. Saban.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes.
Logue.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Gallogley.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Karas.
Yes.
Kostecki.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, very good. And then lastly, we have our budget public hearing. I got a piece of paper here. Yeah, I know, right? This is how meetings normally look, Pat.
Why did you start with this?
I know.
His wife even liked it.
Oh, yeah, his wife split, man. She's like,
And I guess I'm walking home.
all right, so I'm looking for a motion to have a public hearing.
So moved?
All right, Mark and Karen, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this public hearing is being held pursuant to Illinois law to declare discussion and public comment on the proposed budget for the coming fiscal year, which has been on display for the requisite length of time. I ask that Lisa Heglin review the highlights of the budget.
So yes, we talked about the budget at the last council meeting, so I'll just do a quick little update. Revenues of $52.9 million, expenses of $60.4 million, use of excess reserves of $8.5 million. We still have a surplus of $1.1 million after that. We're looking to do $19.6 million of projects next year, and those are listed below. So that's a quick summary. If there's any questions.
We good? Kathy, you're the only person here from the public. You got any questions? Nah, all good, all right.
Notice he didn't ask me, Kathy.
But you're part of the council. Okay, all right, so if we're all good, then I'm looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved?
Second.
All right, Mark and JR, all in favor?
We will be looking for council to approve the budget at the next council meeting.
Okay. All right. You don't need a motion on that, we're just going to be on there, and that's what we're, okay, got it. All right, my friends,
Roll call on the close? Or just a voice vote?
Voice vote,
Okay.
and they did that, yeah.
Okay.
all right, so we're all good, right? That's all we need to do. Okay, if there's nothing else, then we can have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, yeah, you got to be quick if you want to be in on that, Pat. Says Renee and Mark, all in favor?
Aye.